We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Aleph in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 60a. This daf is sponsored by Sean Kashani. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amud or a daf, please see the description box below and see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. On the previous Amud, there was a machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Let's say a man says to a woman that he's being mekadesh the woman may achshav ula'achar lamed yom, from now and after 30 days. So according to Shmuel, it's pashut that what the individual means, what the man means, is that it's a condition, and that retroactively after 30 days go by, so then the Kiddushin is going to take place me'achshav, it's going to take place from now. However, according to Rab, it's actually a suffix. What does this individual mean? Does he mean to say that it's a condition? That's one possibility, and the Kiddushin would take place retroactively. The other possibility is that there's a retraction. He originally said that he wants the Kiddushin to be from now, but then he's changing his mind, and it's after 30 days. And so the Gemara now says, according to the position of Rav, Abaye says, what if you would have a situation where one person would come and say, Me'achshav ula'achar lamed yom, then a second person would come and say, Me'achshav ula'achar esrim yom, 20 days, from now and after 20 days, and then Abaye continues, Uva'achar va'amar la, then another person comes and he says to her, Haread mekudeshes li me'achshav ula'achar asara yomim, you're mekudeshes to me from now and after 10 days, and again, in each situation, there's really a suffix. Does the person mean from now? Or does the person mean at the 30 days, at the 20 days, at the 10 days? And so Abaye says, according to Rav, that it's a suffix, so may rishon umei achron tzricha get. So from the first person that came to her, and from the last person, she would require a get. Because both of those kiddushins might be chal. The first person might be chal because he was the first, and if it means me'achshav, so then he's the first one from now. He was the first one to come. And the last one might be a kiddushin, because again, the numbers are getting smaller every time. So the person said, me'achshav ula'achar asara yamim, from now and after 10 days, that 10 days is going to arrive before the 20 days, it's going to arrive before the 30 days, and so if you're going to go by the retraction understanding, so then the 10 days it's going to be chal and the person who was last, and that's why may rishon or may achron, from the first person that came to her, and from the last she requires a get, those might be a kiddushin, but however, that's tzricha get, but may imsai, but from the middle individual, the person who said from now until 20 days, eino tzricha get, she does not require a get, and Abaye explains, monafshach, because either way you look at it, if it's a condition, so the kama kiddushin, the hanachlav kiddushin, the first person's kiddushin is a good kiddushin, the other ones are not a good kiddushin. And ichazara havai, and if it's a retraction, the basra kiddushin, the hanachlav kiddushin. So then it's the latter one that's going to be a good kiddushin, and the other ones will not be a good kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, Pshita, well, isn't that obvious? And the Gemara says it's not obvious. Mahu detema, what might you have said? Hai lishna mashma tano mashma chazar, that maybe this language, it can be understood as a condition, and it can also be understood as a retraction, and therefore it could be different by each individual. Maybe the first person, he meant after 30 days, and maybe the middle person, he meant from now, and maybe the last person meant after 10 days, and then maybe the middle one is a kiddushin. V'tiboy gita mikol chad v'chad, if he had that understanding, maybe she would require a get from every one of the men, from every one of the individuals, because every one of the kiddushins might have been effective, kamash malon, and so that's what Abaye is teaching us. Abaye is teaching that it has only one understanding, we just don't know what that understanding is. When a person says, me'achshav ula'achar lamed yom, let's say, or me'achshav ula'achar esrim yom, it's either going to be from now, or it's going to mean from after those amount of days, from after 30 or 20 days, but it's not going to be that different by each individual, and so therefore, again, she's going to require a get from the first and the last person, but she's not going to require a get from the middle individual. And the Gemara continues, Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ula says that Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu meya tovsin ba, that even if you have a situation like this with 100 men, and they have me'achshav ula'achar shloshim yom, me'achshav ula'achar esrim yom, etc., all 100, the kiddushin will take effect. V'chein Amar Rav Asi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and similarly Rav Asi says that Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu meya tovsin ba, even 100 of kiddushins like this, they can all take effect. And the Gemara explains, what does it mean? What is Rabbi Yochanan saying? Amar le Rav Mesharshia Breder Rav Ami le Rav Asi. Rav Mesharshia, the son of Rav Ami, said to Rav Asi, Asavar lach taima de Rabbi Yochanan, I'm going to explain to you the reasoning of Rabbi Yochanan. Shavu nafshe ki sharga de livne. The person is rendering his kiddushin similar to the way that you stack bricks. That each one leaves a little space for its friend. The idea over here is that when you build a wall, so if you're stacking the bricks, you don't put every brick directly one on top of of the other. Rather, you stack it so that each brick is actually laying on two bricks. It's laying half of it is on one brick and half on the other. That's how you stack the bricks when you make a wall. So each brick is leaving a little space for its friend to go next to it. So too over here, when a person does a Kiddushin and he says, Me'achshav ula'achar, from now and after a certain amount of time, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the person is really saying there's a little bit of the Kiddushin is starting now and it's completing after a period of time, and so therefore there's a little space left over, so to speak, for another Kiddushin from a different man to be Chal, and all of the Kiddushins are going to be Chal. And Rashi explains, Asavra Loch, I'll explain to you the reason of Rabbi Yochanan. You can't say that the reason of Rabbi Yochanan that he says that all of the Kiddushins are Chal is because it implies it's understood both ways. Maybe there's a suffix. This person might have meant it as a condition, this person might have meant it as a retraction. Maybe that's why Rabbi Yochanan is saying that they're all Chal. That's not true. Because if that were the case, Rabbi Yochanan wouldn't use the language of Tofsin. Because Tefisa really is only by one of them, and it's just a doubt, we don't know which one, but that's not what Rabbi Yochanan was saying. That would just mean, again, we don't know which Kiddushin was Chal. Tofsin, but since Rabbi Yochanan says all 100 are Tofsin, so they all take effect, Mashma Desfir Le Sheyesh Batzad Kiddushin Lekulu. It sounds like Rabbi Yochanan is saying that there's somewhat of a Kiddushin for every single one of the men, and Rashi continues, Deshavu Nafshayo Kisharga Delivni, they make themselves like the rows of bricks in a wall. Hamisadr Leveinim V'Rachav Kulan Shava. Let's say you have a bunch of bricks, you're organizing them, you're building a wall, they're all the exact same width. Eino Misadr Mamish Zu Agav. No one builds a wall where every brick is directly on top of the other one. Dim Kain Hare Shura Hachitzor No Fellas V'Chaver Tachar. Everything's going to fall down. El Misadr Tchila Zu Eitzel Zu V'Chozer Misadr Le Shura Acheres V'Nosan Achitzona Meshucha L'Chutz Kadei Shishar Revach B'Tachtona Lioshniyo Sheves Mixas Aleh. As we explained, every row of bricks, it's sitting, each brick is on two bricks below it. Mixas al she'etzla, it's a little bit on this one, a little bit on that one. V'nisha revach gam b'shniya leo shlishas mixas al. Again, there's a little bit of space, always to allow that there should be two bricks on every resting on each and every brick. V'chein kulam. That's how you arrange a wall of bricks. Hachanam yikol echad matzah makom zman poni l'kedushin v'tafsu kulan la'osra. So too over here, when it comes to the kiddushin, each one is doing a partial, so to speak, a partial kiddushin, and there's enough that all of them can take somewhat of an effect. And the Gemara continues, Meisiv Rev Chanina. Rev Chanina asks the following question. Mehayom ulachar misa. This is talking about a situation of a get. The person says the get is chal from today and after death. So we quoted the opinion above, get ve'eno get. It's considered a get, but it's also not a get, meaning to say it's a suffix. We don't know if the person means mehayom from today, or does he mean lachar misa, in which case, after death, it certainly would not be a good get. V'yemeis, and therefore, in this situation, we don't know if she's divorced or not. So if the husband dies, choletzes v'lo mesyavemes. So she does chalitza, but she cannot do yibum. And the idea over here is, of course, you only do yibum if it's not a get, but we don't know for sure. It might actually be a get. Maybe there is no yibum. On the other hand, it's possible that there should be yibum. It's possible that it's not a get, and so therefore, if he dies, there's chalitza, but there is no yibum. Essentially, we have to be strict in both directions. It might be a get, it might not be a get. And the Gemara now says, how do we understand this brisa, whether according to Rav, whether according to Shmuel, whether according to Rabbi Yochanan? And the Gemara says, B'shalom Rav. Now I understand according to Rav, because Rav says in general, when you say Mehayom ulachar shloshim yom, it's a doubt, it's a suffix. Mesayale, this brisa supports him. It's exactly what it's saying. It's a doubt over here if the get is from today or lachar misa. L'Shmuel nami hamani rabbanan here, and according to Shmuel also, the author of this brisa is the rabbanan. The rabbanan are the ones that say that it's a doubt, and Shmuel will say that this brisa follows the rabbanan. Va'anon da'amri k'Rebbe, but we hold like Rebbe. According to Shmuel, we hold like Rebbe that it's not a suffix. We know it's really a condition, but this brisa follows the rabbanan. Elul Rabbi Yochanan, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Shiur Havi, who says that in a scenario like this, by Kiddushin, let's say, the person is leaving over a little space so that all of the Kiddushins are able to be Chal, but the halacha by get is, Kol Gita de Meshayer Ba V'lo Klumhu. Anytime you have a get and you leave off, if it's not a full krisus, if it's not a full separation from the husband and wife from each other, if it's not a full krisus, it's not a get at all. And so therefore it would not be a get at all, according to Rabbi Yochanan, in a situation of Mehayom Ulachar Misa, misa because there's a shiur, there's something being left over. It's not a full krisus. It's not a full separation. And if it's not a get at all, so yivume miyavim, so there should be yibum over here. We shouldn't be strict and say that you can only do chalitza. We should say that yibum is possible because it's certainly not a good get. So how do we explain this brisa according to Rav Yochanan? And the Gemara says, Amar Rava, Rava says, get lahotzi umisa lahotzi. It's actually, the way it works is as follows. It is following Rabbi Yochanan, meaning to say Rabbi Yochanan could understand this brisa, but both get and misa, they function in a similar fashion. Get is something that takes her out of the marriage. A divorce document takes her out of the marriage. And misa also, death also takes her out of the marriage. And so therefore, mashashayir get gamraso misa. What's really happening over here is there's a partial divorce, and whatever is left over in terms of that separation, the misa, the death, he's saying that finishes it off. And so therefore, there is a partial divorce over here in this situation. It's not fully that she's a widow, and that's why there is no yibum. But the Gemara continues, Amar le Abaya, Abaya said to him, Abaya responded to Rava, can you really say that? Me dummy, is it really comparable? Meaning to say, can you compare the get and the misa to each other, that they're both functioning in the same fashion? It's not true. Because get motzia merishos yavam, because even though it's true that a get takes her out from the marriage and death takes her out from the marriage, but in terms of the yavam, in terms of the brother-in-law, the get actually takes her away from yibum. There is no yibum if she's a divorcee. But on the contrary, misa machneses but let's say the husband dies when you have a case of a widow, so that actually brings her into the authority of the yavam. That brings her to the concept of yibum, that she should marry the brother-in-law. And so therefore, really, there's a contradiction in terms of the yavam, in terms of if there's a get over here or misa over here. And so therefore, Abaye does not accept the answer of Rava on behalf of Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara says, Elamar Abaye, rather Abaye says, Hasam time amai. What's the reason over there? The reason over there, meaning to say in a situation of mehayom ulachar misa, why do we say that she does chalitza in that case? According to Rav Yochanan, it shouldn't be a good get at all. The reason is it's really just a gezeira, it's really just a decree. Meaning to say, really, it is not a good get, and since it's not a good get, of course, there in such a situation there should be yibum. But we don't want to do yibum because of the following gezeira, mishum mehayom imamati hareze get, because there's a similar case which people can get confused. Let's say the situation is that the husband says to the wife, mehayom imamati. He says that the get is going to be from today if I die. Now, in that case, it is certainly a condition. He's saying that at the time that he dies, retroactively, it's going to be a get mehayom. And in that case, since it's going to be a get, so she's a divorcee, certainly there's no yibum, and there's no chalitza in there. It's a situation where she is certainly a divorcee, but there could be confusion. That case is very similar to the case of mehayom ulachar misa. We don't want to get confused between the two cases, and therefore by mehayom ulachar misa, if we were going to allow yibum in that case, people might get confused and say that there could be yibum in this case of mehayom imati as well, and therefore we do not allow yibum in that case, even though there could be yibum technically because it was not a divorce, but therefore we do not allow yibum, and we say only chalitza. But the Gemara says, well, if you're making a gezeira, because the two cases can get confused, you can make the gezeira in the other direction. V'nigzer mehayom imati detachlots ato mehayom alachar misa. Why don't we say by the case of mehayom imati, don't say over there where we say it is certainly a good get. So there we're saying she doesn't require yibum or chalitza, but we should make a gezeira. We should make a gezeira that she should do chalitza because of the case of mehayom alachar misa. Since the case of mehayom alachar misa, she has to do chalitza over there. So we don't want there to be a confusion, because again, mehayom alachar misa, certainly it is not going to be a good get. There certainly has to be something, either yibum or chalitza, and we're saying there should be chalitza. So let's make a gezeira by mehayom and mati as well, that she should do chalitza. And the Gemara says that we don't do, because imat omer choletzes misyavemes. In the case of mehayom and mati, if we said that she should do chalitza, people would be confused. They would think she's doing chalitza because the get wasn't a good get at all, and then they might even come to do yibum, which certainly she should not do, because in that case, really, it was a good get. So if we're going to be strict and say to do chalitza, there could be a confusion. People will think you could do yibum. But the Gemara says, hachanami, if that's the case, here also, in the case of mehayom, in the situation where it's mehayom ulachar misa, won't there be the same confusion? Imatomer choletzes misyavemes, if you're going to say she does chalitza, people will think, well, if she's doing chalitza, it must not be a divorce. They'll think you can do yibum as well. And the Gemara says, well, that's not a problem in the case of mehayom ulachar misa, because tisyaven vein bekach klum. Let it be that she'll get confused and do yibum. That won't pose such an issue, because if she does yibum, that actually technically would be okay at a doraisa level, because mehayom ulachar misa is really not a good get, and really yibum is perfectly okay. We're just not doing yibum because we don't want to get confused to the case of imati. And so therefore over there by mehayom ulachar misa we say choletzes, and if there ends up arising some confusion that she does yibum, that's not a big deal, because chashasha the rabbanon, because the whole thing was only a concern of the rabbanon when it came to the case of mehayom ulachar misa. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Ha'omer li'isha hareat mekudeshes li, if a man says to a woman, hareat mekudeshes li, you are mekudeshes to me, al menaz she'etein loch masayim zuz, on the condition that I give you 200 zuz. In other words, he says that the Kiddushin is on condition, he's going to give her one pruta, but it's only going to be a good condition, it's only going to be a good Kiddushin rather, if he actually gives her 200 zuz, harezu mekudeshes v'hu yitain. So it is going to be a good Kiddushin, so long as he gives the money. Al menaz she'etein loch mikan v'yad lamed yom. Let's say the condition is on condition that I give you the money from now until 30 days. I have 30 days to give you that money. Nasan la besoch shlosha mekudeshes. If he gives her the money within the 30 days, it's a good kiddushin. V'im la veina mekudeshes. And if not, so it's not a good kiddushin. Al menas sheyesh li masayim zuz. Let's say he says it's a kiddushin on the condition that I have 200 zuz. Harezu mekudeshes v'yesh lo. That is, it's a good kiddushin so long as he has the money. Al menas she'erech masayim zuz. Let's say he says on condition that I show you 200 zuz. Harezu mekudeshes. That's a good kiddushin. V'yeroela, but he has to show it to her. V'imhera la shulchan. Now, if he shows it to her on the table, means to say if he shows her money that's not really his, eina mekudeshes, that's not a good kiddushin, because the understanding of the condition is that he's showing her money that actually belongs to him. And Rashi says, Hareat mekudeshes li bepruta zu al menas she'eten lach masayim zuz. Again, you're mekudeshes to me with this pruta on the condition that I give you 200 zuz. V'imhera la shulchan eina mekudeshes. If he shows it to her on the table, that's not a good kiddushin. V'achi perusha. What the Mishnah means is as follows. Let's say he was a shulchani, he's a money changer, he's a person who deals with money. He shows money. He shows money to her that's not really his money. It's just on the table in front of him. That's not a good kiddushin. Because the intention over here obviously is she wants to see that he has the money. She doesn't just want to see the money on a table. And the Gemara says, Itzmar, we have the following machlokas amoraim in terms of the understanding of the Mishnah. Again, the Mishnah said, if he says that you're mekudeshes to me on the condition I give you 200 zuz, it's a kiddushin if he gives the money. So there's a machlokas amoraim. What does that mean? Rav Huna says, v'hu yitain. Rav Huna says it simply means that he gives the money and then retroactively it's a good kiddushin. And Rav Yehuda Amar likish yitain. Rav Yehuda says, when he gives the money, that's when the kiddushin is chal. It's not that he fulfills the condition and the kiddushin is retroactive. It's at the moment that he fulfills the condition that the kiddushin is chal. Rav Huna Amar v'hu yitain tanoah havi mekayim tanoah v'azol. Rav Huna says he gives the money, meaning it's a condition. He fulfills the condition, and then the kiddushin is chal retroactively. Rav Yehuda Amar lichash yitain. Rav Yehuda says when he gives the money, it's chal. L'chi yoiv have a kiddushin. When he gives the money, it's a kiddushin. Hashtamiyah lo have a kiddushin. Right now, it is not a kiddushin. My beinayu. The Gemara says, what's the practical difference between them? Ika beinayu. The difference is as follows: Shapashta yada v'kivla kiddushin me'acher. Let's say she stretches out her hand and she receives a kiddushin from someone else in the interim period before the condition is fulfilled. Rav Huna lo have a kiddushin. According to Rav Huna, so that second kiddushin is not a kiddushin because the first kiddushin is going to be chal retroactively. That's the one that's going to take effect. Rav Yehuda have a kiddushin, but according to Rav Yehuda, that kiddushin from the second individual will be effective because the first kiddushin isn't really going to be effective until the condition is fulfilled. By then it's too late. She's already received a kiddushin from somebody else. And the Gemara continues, Utanan nami gabe gitin ki agavna. We have a Mishnah that's similar by gitin as follows: Ha'omer liisha hareza gitach al menashe titni li masayim zuz. If a man says to a woman, this is your get, on the condition that you give me 200 zuz, harezu megureshes v'hititain. She is divorced and she has to give the money. And we have the same exact machlokas. Itmar, we have the following machlokas amoraim. Rav Huna amar v'hititain. Rav Huna says that she gives the money and then retroactively it will be a divorce. Rav Yehuda amar lichashetitain. Rav Yehuda says when she gives the money, at that point in time she's divorced. Rav Huna amar v'hititain tana have a mekayim tana v'azla. Rav Huna says that she gives the money, it's just a condition, she fulfills the condition, and then the gerushin is going to take effect retroactively. Rav Yehuda amar Rav Yehuda says lichashetitain, when she gives the money, l'chiyahiva le Yehuda havi get, when she gives him the money, then it's a good get. Hashtamiha lo havi get. But right now it is not a good get, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Amud Beis.